Hi and welcome to Talking Point with me, Paul Bith. In our today's discussion, we are talking about the World's International Standard Day, which was initially launched in 1970, and now it is recognized and celebrated annually. The day is dedicated to creating awareness about the standardization of the globalized world. The process of the standardization is an important tool for facilitating trades and overcoming technical challenges. To discuss this, I'm joined on the program by the Chief Executive of the National Bureau of Standards, Honorable Mary Gordon. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Paul. I appreciate this opportunity.
Now, to begin with, what do you mean by the World's International Standard Day?
Thank you very much. Standard is a very big subject, but World International Day is actually being celebrated by a standard institution like ISO, IEC, ITU. These all are standard bodies that celebrate these days, and the purpose for it is actually to give tribute to those of experts that form what we know today as an international standard. They worked at it, they established the commissions and the union and the body to ensure that there are things called standards. And the standards, of course, what the standard mean is there are rules and guidelines commonly used to help us to achieve what the best optimum state of a matter. It doesn't matter whether it's a car you're building a house, there have to be standards that are followed. So those standards, the purpose that they are to ensure that whatever we're doing to the certain criteria, certain measurements, certain ways to meet the standard that is being set up by those committees.
What does the international organization do in this matter?
International organization, they ensure that they sit as many different countries. It's like there could be up to whatever number of countries, and they agree, they have a consensus on what exactly is the best practice for standard. For instance, the reason why we have ISO, which was established, as you mentioned earlier, in 1947, but the standard day was launched later, is to ensure that these countries agree on certain things, certain ways, certain rules for doing things. Things like processes. If you're manufacturing something in the company, there are processes that are done to meet the required results at the end of it. And if there's no guidance, there's no standard, nothing will come out perfect. All of us will have funny made products. Hajan Maud could be take itself. So these standards are there as a guideline for everyone, and the international bodies is their job to do that. So when you get a standard in South Sudan, that standard comes from the international body, like ISO, for instance. ISO is the international standardization organization for standardization. That's what the standard IOS. And that body is composed of so many different countries, and the people who sit there are experts on certain areas. It's not just not on one thing. I mean, they could just talk about TV, for instance. They have to talk about standard of TV. So those experts on TV will sit together, and they worked on issues that are acceptable for making the TV and put it down as a standard. So when you come now and follow that guideline, it will give you a TV that we all know as it is today for everything we have. That's why they say the standards are life. They're part of our life. Everything we do, even just making jackets or making clothes, you have to follow certain standards.
But there are some things that are never being followed. That is in a sense that most of the companies, some of the companies are now operating in the country here, and they are not meeting a standard. With this kind of companies, how do you deal out with them?
I would not say they are not following standard, but they are omitting some things. For instance, water companies. Water companies, we guide them first of all to ensure the plan that they are manufacturing is suited for standard. For instance, the hygiene, there are toilet, there are hand wash sinks, there are their way of operating. People are wearing gum boots, and they are making sure the whole outfit is meeting the factory for water. When these things are put in place, they actually do follow standard. And then there are areas where they miss standard. For instance, when they bring material for making the standard, if those materials are not meeting the standard, they're dropping the standard. If those containers that they're making for standard are not done according to standard, they're dropping standard. For instance, water is measured 600 mil. And if you look at the water bottle, sometimes it's full, sometimes it's a bit half. Those are the mistakes, the errors that are being made by the standard. But otherwise, they do follow standard from the basics onwards. So if you are not following standard as a factory, then this is the time we get into case with you, and we ensure that you follow the standard as it is written there. For the safety and quality for water.
As you said, somebody that is meeting standard actually, as you need, he or she may be getting into loggerhead with you. In celebration of a standard, what are the significant growing impact on the global economy?
Very, very huge, because the standard comes in everything. You know, trade as we know it today is all dependent on standards. If you have a produce of a country, for instance, like now we're going to go into production and processes and start exporting our products, if they're not meeting the standards set down by the World Trade Organization or whatever guidelines they want us to adhere to, then our goods will never be bought. Nobody will buy the goods of South Sudan. So that's why we're working very hard as the Bureau of Standard to train and educate the public the importance of standard. And that's why Standard Day for us is not just a day, but it's a day to create awareness to everybody that if you don't understand standard, then you need to pay attention to know exactly what the standard is, and especially for traders, because now we are producing things like we are packaging things like honey, things like sesame, simsim, lulu. These have to be processed, clean, packed, labeled according to standard. If they are not, then nobody will buy from us. So we're encouraging a lot of our business community, our entrepreneurs, to ensure that they incorporate the standard in their work on a daily basis, to ensure that whatever product you are producing in South Sudan has to follow the standard we give you, and then it can be sold in South Sudan as well as outside the country.
Okay. Now there are some traders, to be honest. There are some producers in this case that don't all the time adhere or accept the facts of what you tell them, and then they do go on their own trying to produce things that they think that of course actually it is like them producing some goods that are not meeting a standard in a way that they are doing them in a cheap price but expecting to get more on these products, and they are not of a certain standard. How do you deal out with these people? If you get them, what are the penalties, what are the fines for these people?
For those who are making product in South Sudan and they're not meeting the standard, we usually remove the product completely. We stop them producing if we get them, because a lot of them they're hiding. You will not believe sometimes they do. Yeah. They make things at night. So really we search for these people who are doing, especially when they have a product in the market. We can easily trace them, and the next thing is either they shut down the whole company and you have to pay a very high penalty because you are deceiving the public. This is what they call unfair trade. You're not trading properly. You're producing products that are substandard and you're selling them at the price of the standard goods. So this is why the organization like WTO are set up to ensure that countries abide by standards. If they produce their standard according to international standard or regional standard, then their products are accepted. But if they are not, then the product will not be accepted. Equally the same. Why do we consume substandard goods when we make them in our own country? So we don't allow the producer to set up a company, start producing, sell them as well in the country without us being informed or knowing something about it. When they actually sell this product in the market, suppose sometimes you come across something with no label, no names. How do you buy something with no names? This is standard. You have to have a name of the product. You have to write a product in the name that everybody can read in Arabic or English.
Yes.
Not in Chinese, not in any other countries, other languages. Yeah. You make it suitable for us. So when we come and read it, I said, I'm buying this product and it's made here and it's made of South Sudan. This is our acceptable practices. But if you don't, this is where now we are really working very hard with our SMEs, the small businesses, to start off from the footing of standard, so that your products are sound from the beginning to the time they reach the market. And a lot of them are doing it. We've been teaching them now things like practice of hygiene, which is HACCP. We are training them on GMP. This is a good manufacturing practices. We're teaching them food safety itself, and that's why you've heard that now we form a committee called Food Safety Committee. This works on those areas to create awareness in the public, and to be able to tell the public, especially the entrepreneurs, there are ways of doing things. Even normal chapati, you have to make it suitable for consumption and healthy and safe for the consumers.
Apparently, there has been some discoveries of certain things. In fact, there are some companies that are being backed up by some of the South Sudanese who are doing business. Of course, there may be some big people somewhere, and if you get deep down into these people, kind of whatever business they are trying to operate in the country, and they are not meeting certain quality or whatever you may need as your standard. So this kind of things, how do you deal with them? How easy is it if you get a trader having produced some of the things that are not meeting a certain standard, and you need he or she to maybe confiscate those goods or maybe shut down the whole company, as you put it. So and somebody from within the country here may back up that kind of company or that kind of individuals. How easy is it?
It's not easy. It's been very hard. And that's why we need a lot of support from the government institution as well as the senior official in the government, because we are still a new nation, as you know, and a lot of people don't have the full understanding of the effect that these things does to us. You will think you're making a profit and you're making money by making cheap things, doing it cheaper way. This is affecting our health, and this is our job, to create awareness and to let the public know that you cannot get away with it. Usually what happens, you can get a backup today, but tomorrow you will not get another backup. For instance, we're really, majority of the time we're very serious, and we tell them we're going to shut the factory down. If 1, 2, and 3 are not in place, this factory has to close. Of course, they call somebody in high authority, and we get threatened. This used to happen a lot, not anymore now. A lot of people are getting educated now. So those days, you used to have somebody would threaten you. They would give the threat to some of our staff that if you don't allow this to happen, you will not be there tomorrow. This do happen, but thank God at the moment people are, there's a lot of awareness has come, like what you're doing now. So a lot of people are thinking, okay, if this is for the safety of our country, for the safety of our people, then I don't have to interfere with the standards that are being set up for making water, for instance. So those things are being managed slowly, but they have been very tough times, and those tough times has actually affected us a lot. Some of the staff got scared. Some of them gave up to work. Some of them decided they don't want to work in that particular line, especially those at the borders. Because if they've been frightening at the border and there is a gun somewhere here, remember we are civilian like you people. So you get scared. You said, okay, come in. And you know exactly it's not right. So we are creating awareness to the public in general and to those who have businesses, to stop actually doing these practices, and they're doing.
With these kind of incidences that you have just mentioned, if at all, some of you, as you put it, maybe most of your staff might have seen these challenges, so being intimidated in their work to not to do this and that. How do you feel actually, and what have you done to this? Do you just let them go if they are being threatened and they don't want to work no more? Do you just let them go like that?
No, of course not. Of course not. That's why majority of our work we travel together with the police, as well as different security organ. And majority of the time, these security organs actually protect the staff because the staff are civilian. So this is why this is the reason we introduce a lot of work to be done in company of security organ as well as the police. So these things is being manageable.
Now we are going for a very short break, and we'll be right back and continue with our discussion. Honorable Mary.
Thank you very much.
back from the break. We are now continuing with our discussion. We have been talking about the world's international standard that is going to take place in the day before tomorrow. So with this, I've been on the program with Honorable Mary, the Chief Executive Officer of National Bureau of Standards. We have been discussing about this matter and this very important day that is going to take place on Friday. Now, Honorable Mary, you all come back to our discussion.
Okay, I just wanted to stress for the understanding of what is standard. A lot of people are thinking, what is standard?
So, I've just come back from a break actually. What actually do you mean by the word standard to the public?
Thank you very much, Paul. Standards are actually rules and guidelines that are being established or being set up by a consensus of many experts, and those experts are from different countries. This is how they started from the beginning. So when they sat together and they start asking questions on each topic, for instance, the topic of water, and they discuss what quality of water do we want. So they sit down and put down the guideline for what kind of water are they looking for, and what are they looking at for, especially in the term of packaging, presentation, and even the quality when they're analyzing them. Does this water have the necessary element to help the people with it? So this is what the standards are. They are made with the rules and guidelines to be followed by everybody in the world. That's why they call it the International Day, because every country must abide to this rule for the benefit of the nation, of course. So these standards are established and worked on, and then there are certain organizations that now agreed for it collectively, and then come out with it as agreed standard by majority of the international, and is allowed to be used by a country like us, like South Sudan. So of course South Sudan is a new nation, but we need to join these bodies because we have to have a saying. We have to contribute. As long as we are part of the nation, we need to contribute and need to be a member of it. So for instance, like now ISO, we are a member of the ISO, and this is called the International Standardization Organization. We are a member of that, and then of course there is IEC, which is for International Electrochemical Commissions, and then of course there is ITU, which is to do with the telecommunication.
Yes.
So these bodies are bodies that are known for their standards. What we do as a young country like us, we join them, and then we start using their standards. And the good thing is now we are a member of the EAC. Since we joined the EAC already worked on this standard, and they call them EAC standard, which is East African standard. So now the Bureau of Standard is a member of the EAC, as we know, and the Bureau of Standard has joined different technical committees in the East African standard bodies. So that standard for honey, if we need a standard for ground nuts, they're all available now. And these things are made by African sitting together, East Africa sitting together, and South Sudan is a member, so it's contributing to that as well. So they're producing that standard and we're using them. We're also using standard directly from international bodies, and we're using standard that we made as our own. We have our own standard. South Sudan has been sitting with different experts. For instance, the area of brick. Now we have a standard for bricks. We made it according to to our environment, to our condition. So the committee will sit and then work technical people work on what are the required standards for our bricks, for instance. And that's why we've been working very hard, because our country now we are building buildings and we are building bridges. It's very important for us to pay attention to how we're making the bricks. For instance, I give you example of that brick. That brick, it has to be made with a certain composition of cement, of water, of soil. It has to meet the standard for the cement, for the blocks to function well in the building. If the brick is not standard, the building is not standard. If the construction is not standard, we'll have a lot of building collapsing very soon, and that's what we are very concerned about that as a bureau, and we really wanted to get our hands together with all the different ministries, especially the Ministry of Road and Bridges. Now they're using international standard for building bridges. They have to adhere to all standard, otherwise the bridges will not last. So this is the importance of standard. This is the area of just living things. But if you come to things like food, come to things like even weighing machine, the scale has to be standard. For instance, this weighing scale, if it's not standard, the kilo you buy for the meat, it will not be a kilo. They'll probably put something here, mess about with it here, and then you're told kilo. Maybe it's less than a kilo. So the Bureau of Standard is working to ensure that whatever balances are used, scales are used in the market, they're actually standard. And the way the trader is selling to the public is actually the right way. Don't put a stone under it, don't put some papers and try to make the balance not right. So those are the standards. That's why you have the Bureau Standard. Is to ensure anything that we worked on, anything we do, anything we eat, anything we live on are meeting the standards.
Honorable, scenarios like what you have recently just mentioned always happen. For example, some time back, I can say this, when you are going to buy maybe a kilo of sugar or some kind of like a kilo of maize flour, the traders in the market, they're having a funny style of tying down the weighing scale, and when something little is being for on the weighing scale, the thing automatically will go down, and the buyers will not hesitate. In fact, they will not know. They will just grab it and go away with it. And it is not a real kilo that they wanted. When you find out this kind of issues from these kind of traders, what are the authority measures do you guys taken regardless this kind of cheating the public?
Thank you very much. I think this is why the government established the National Bureau of Standard, because our mandate is to protect the consumers. We ensure that the consumers who buy a kilo of sugar should buy a kilo of sugar, not buy a 3/4. And usually what we do, we have inspectors who goes to the market and check your weight measurements. If your weighing measurements are being tampered with, they can easily tell because they're experts. And then what they do, they stamped your machine. Now your machine is stamped. They come back in regularly to check if this instrument is actually doing what it says. If you have tampered with it, then there's a lot of penalty. And that's why at the moment the traders are learning. A lot of them are buying brand new one, and we encourage them to buy a new one, weighing scale, because now they're accurate, they're very accurate. But the old one has worn down and the weighing is not accurate. So this is another work we are concentrating on very much, including the thing like fuel. For instance, if a fuel is you've been measured a fuel is less than a liter, this is cheating. This is what they call unfair trade. So we ensure we go to the Trumbat, we go to fuel station. Yes, and we check the volume we are using as a trader. What is the public are getting? Are they getting less than they're actually paying for or not? So this is the work that the public are not aware that behind all this we are working. We are ensuring that whatever the customer gets is actually meeting the standards.
Okay. We are still continuing with our discussion. The standard for sustainable development goals. What are these set goals that you people have?
We work with the set goal of the nation. Nation is on development at the moment.
Sure.
And there are certain ways, for instance, like this simple thing like building bridges. We have to ensure the bridges are actually within the standards. So when we have those standards and we're implementing them and working together as one body, we are sustaining our development. You don't have a bridge being built today and tomorrow is broken down. So you're not really sustaining, are you? So it's good to ensure that whatever we do, whether building roads, whether having manufacturers, whether building bridges, they are meeting the standards so that our growth and our development is sustainable and is actually producing results for the goal that we want as a nation. And at the same time, we wanted, as a country, South Sudan, we wanted to be included in the international world where we are trading, we are exporting our goods. Applying a standard in its fullest will ensure that we have products that are meeting the standard, and those products are going to our regional market as well as international market. So this is the process of growing as a nation. You need to apply standard, you need to have a standard, you need to ensure that the standard is implemented fully to get us the result that we want. We want to be a developed nation.
What are some of the challenges that you guys have here? If at all you're going to the field, your staff do go to the field and do the data analysis or collection. So for some of the things that the customer, I beg your pardon, the traders are having in the market. What are some of the equipment that you guys are lacking, and it is giving you a hard time to find out this kind of thing?
It's very difficult to just count the equipment we have and equipment we are lacking on TV. But we do have a necessary equipment that we are using at the moment, which are not enough, but they're better than nothing. And then of course we have some equipment that we are needing, and that's why we've been negotiating a lot with the Ministry of Finance and especially the cluster to ensure that they give us enough budget so that those equipment we're lacking, we'll be able to purchase them and fulfill the work that we have to do. And of course, you know, when you bring in your goods through places like Numuli, it's very hard to run with the sample to Juba because we have a laboratory here. So the laboratory in Numuli, we are doing our best to equip it so that whatever need to be tested will be tested there and then, and the product is allowed to come in. So those are the areas that we are working very hard. It's not easy, as you know, our economy has been going up and down, but we are working towards that. So if those are established and the whole system is setting up, then we can call ourselves, we have started to work on the betterment for our nation.
Have you tried to extend your hands in maybe asking for help from some other international organizations that are responsible for the standardization of commodities, and what have been that saying to back you up in the fields of your operation?
They actually been helping us a lot. For instance, I think I discussed with you before, Trademark East Africa has been really working with us since 2012 to ensure that we establish the basis of standard. Because if we don't even have a standard body, that would have been a very big problem. Would have never joined the EAC, because the basis of the trade is standard. You have a standard, everything is working. So bodies like Trademark East Africa, body like FAO, UNIDO, they've been working in different areas to ensure that we have the equipment we need so that our trading or our trade facilitation is actually optimized. So we have a lot of bodies and we've been approaching them, and they're very good. They're helping us better than anybody else would have done. Even our own government is still coming behind, but they have gone ahead and bought us a very expensive equipment which we are using at the moment.
We are left with only 1 minute on this very important discussion of ours. What do you think would be your last message on this important program of ours to the public?
To the general public, of course, I just wanted to say Friday is a standard day, and we want the public to be aware that what is a standard. And just for the simplest word, is the standard help us to have a better life. I think this is what I can say. Standard creating a better life for us. For instance, better quality of things we're using, better materials, better processing that we're using. If you're having a factory or you're doing a processes and you set it up on standard, you have a better quality of product. So I want the Republic of South Sudan to include standard in their everyday living and to watch out for things that are standard. Even building your own house. I want South Sudanese to build their house in accordance with standard. Don't just accept an engineer and tell you that I'll build your house for you. You ask them exactly what standard are they using, so that they ensure the brick are done, are made according to standard. The engineer is working according to standard. Your building will be built today and break down tomorrow. We want building that will last for our children to enjoy. So I want the public to really pay attention to that, and especially traders, that they should make sure that whatever they are buying from outside country is meeting the standard. And the Bureau of Standard is here to help the public and to ensure that our economy is being improved day by day.
This marks the end of our discussion, and we have been talking about the World's International Day that is going to be celebrated on Friday, exactly as it has been put by the Chief Executive Officer of the National Bureau of Standard, Honorable Mary. Thank you so much indeed for being part of this discussion. Our time has come to an end. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay.